Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being on time and carving some time out of your day today. So today, Christian Fustos is going to walk us through a presentation about our PDM options, our product data management options that we have available for you. Before we get too deep into that, let me just do a little bit of housekeeping. We have everybody on mute right now, just so that we cut out all the background noise and that sort of thing. So if you have any questions, please type those questions into the panel on the right, and then at the end we will take a look at those questions and make sure that we give you answers. We're also recording this presentation, so this will be available if anybody else in your organization is interested in viewing it. So the reason why we decided to put this presentation together is we get an awful lot of calls and emails from our customer base asking very similar questions regarding things like, what is data management? Why might we need data management? And what are some of the differences between Workgroup and Enterprise PDM? And do we really need ePDM, or is Workgroup good enough? And what if we started with Workgroup and maybe went to ePDM later? That sort of thing. Lots of variations on those themes. We get them constantly. So we thought we'd put this presentation together to help try to close that gap, answer some of those questions for you, and give you a little bit better clarity into what these tools can do and how they're different. And one of the interesting things for us here today in this presentation is Christian is actually a person who has had real industry experience in both of these products. The company he worked for in the past used Workgroup PDM for many years, and at one point decided to make a change to Enterprise PDM. So he's used both, and is a great resource here for you, our client, and for us here at DesignPoint. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Christian, and please enjoy. And again, at the end, we'll see what questions are posed and go from there. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you again for joining. As Brett mentioned, my name is Christian Fustos, and just a small introduction, a little bit about myself. I've been using SolidWorks since 1999. I started using Workgroup back in 2006 for a few years, and then back in 2010 I started using Enterprise. So as Brett mentioned, there are a lot of questions from the customers, which is the right tool. So hopefully, after the end of this presentation, you're going to have a better understanding, and you can take in consideration some points that I'm going to present. So if you could please raise your hand, click on the icon to raise your hand if you can see the screen. Hopefully everybody is hearing, so we can move forward. Okay, so it looks like everybody can see the screen. So let's start the presentation, and let's take a look at some differences and similarities between Workgroup and ePDM. First of all, Workgroup is designed for a small users group, 1 to 10 users, and ePDM is designed for anyone from 1 user to 500 users. I've been to actually implementations that I implemented ePDM for only 1 SolidWorks user, and the company had open mind for growth and for better communications about their design data. Accessing Workgroup is possible only from 1 single site. If you want to have your server, or if you want to replicate, or if you want to communicate with other departments from another location, another country, it's not Workgroup is not capable to do that. Instead, Enterprise can access the information from multiple sites. So you can have 1 server, or you can have 10 servers. In each server can be on different location, different country, and you can access the information. Users and password security. EPDM workgroup is basically just you have a password for admin and the password is stored on the server. On EPDM, you actually have multiple capabilities. You can use Windows Active Directory to secure the login. If the user changes the password in Windows, the same password will be used in EPDM. Also, you can have restrictions like if you want to, you can have the password to expire every 3 months or every so often. Workgroup has a basic file management system. So basically is just a simple check-in, check-out. EPDM on the other side has a complete product data management. So you can have check-in bill of materials, inspection sheets, any file basically that you can actually create on your machine, on your computer, you can actually add it and manage it and save it in EPDM. Additionally to that, workflows can be customized to specific file types, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Bill of materials for Workgroup, they are simple, they are reference bill of materials from the drawings. And EPDM, you can actually include in the bill of materials components that they are not part of the assemblies. So for example, grease, packaging, oils, consumable items that you don't really have to create in as a file or as a part number. You can very easily add it to the bill of material and can manage the bill of material. Workgroup, it's integrated with SolidWorks. EPDM is integrated with SolidWorks, AutoCAD, Inventor, ProEngineer, and Microsoft Office. So what does that mean? When I'm actually in Microsoft Word, for example, I can actually check out a file directly from Word, make my changes, and then check it back in. And I will never have to leave the environment. I never have to close my application or minimize the application or something in those lines. The vaulting for other type of formats, of file formats for Workgroup is very basic, as I mentioned. And EPDM supports and you can read and write information and metadata to multiple files, like Office, XML, AutoCAD, Inventor. Workflows for Workgroup, they are pretty linear. It's not possible to branch out of the workflow based on a specific characteristic of the document. Instead, EPDM, it has a full configurable workflow. And you can have multiple workflows for different type of documents or multiple workflows depending on the folders or depending on the category of the file. And it's very flexible, and you can actually model the entire company process into the workflows. Event triggers. So, for example, if you want somebody to be notified if the components or the drawing is released in the system, for example, with Workgroup you require custom programming, and it's more complicated. With Enterprise PDM, it's very easy to configure the notifications via the workflow. Or you can even notify a colleague or by right-clicking on a file and just send a notification to a colleague. Also, you can have notifications or when files are added to the vault, when files are moving from one state to another, when, for example, when a PDF is generated for a specific drawing. If you want to preview files with Workgroup, you can preview basically SolidWorks files. With PDFs, if you want to preview PDFs, you have to have Adobe Reader or Foxit Reader installed. And other type of documents, they have only thumbnail bitmaps. With EPDM, you have over 400 formats of files that you can actually see and you can actually view. They are ActiveX compliant viewers that can be installed to support other formats. You can also preview PDFs and Office documents without even having the application installed on that machine. Non-CAD users, like contributors and viewers, they will access Workgroup via SolidWorks Explorer. Instead, on the other side, Enterprise, you can actually log into the Vault and you use regular Windows Explorer. And it's a very small learning curve. Users are already familiar with the interface, with the folder structure. So it's very simple to use. If you want to publish your information like PDFs and drawings to suppliers or to vendors, you could do it with Workgroup, but you have only a read-only access. With EPDM, you have read and write access. You can actually check out the files, you can approve the files, and you can view the files via web access interface. One thing that is very unique about Workgroup is that every folder name must be unique. And you cannot have folder A into one location and folder A into another subfolder. So in Enterprise, the folder creation is based on your permissions. So if a user has, or a specific group has permissions, they can create folders and they can name the folders the same in different locations. And in the same time, every file name must be unique across the world. So for example, if you want to check into Workgroup pictures or documents or other files that they have the same name, you're going to have to rename them before you're going to do that in Workgroup. EPDM, actually, you have an option. If you want to, you can turn a checkbox, and your files, you're not going to allow duplicate file names for people in the vault. Or if you want to, you can actually allow it. Additionally, if you want to, you can turn off duplicate file names for SolidWorks files or for CAD files and allow duplicate file names for other types like PDFs or Office documents. If you want to have a serial number generator, basically every time when you create a component, you create a drawing or create a part, the system will actually take the next available number from a serial number. You do not have that capability with Workgroup. With EPDM, you can actually have every department to have its own serial number. You can actually have it to have a serial number for drawings, separate serial number for parts, separate serial number for assemblies. If you want to create a top-level project in Workgroup PDM, you will need to have access to the administration, and you need to have access to the password for the admin user. It's not possible to create, a regular user is not allowed to create a top-level folder. In Enterprise PDM, if the user has access and the user has permissions to do that, they can definitely do that. If you want to search for a specific component or specific description or even a specific material or property or even a dimension into a SolidWorks file, Workgroup, it doesn't have that capability. SolidWorks Enterprise, you have an option to turn on the iFilter, and actually it's searching inside of the files and it's returning values. So for example, if you search for a material ABS, for example, it will go inside of the file and it will retrieve that information for you. If you want to have Workgroup integrated to an ERP, MRP system, you're going to have to do some custom programming. With Enterprise PDM, you actually have an option to export XML, and your ERP system just has to be able to basically take that XML file and process it. And you can actually automate data exchange. You can import bill of materials. You can import part numbers and descriptions and so forth. For Workgroup PDM, metadata is stored in a text file, and it's managed by the Windows service. With Enterprise PDM, the metadata is actually managed in the MS SQL database, in a Microsoft SQL database. And a lot of people maybe are not aware about this, but SQL actually is included when you purchase EPDM. And it's not a free version, it's not a stripped down version, it's a SQL standard edition. So you can use it only for EPDM, and you can use it basically to retrieve your information. One similarity between Workgroup and EPDM is that both of them, they are folder-based 5-volt servers. So basically the users or the administration creates folders, and you can add information into these folders. In Workgroup PDM, a vault can only be managed by one server, so you cannot have replication. And again, with Enterprise PDM, you can have multiple sites, you can replicate information to multiple servers, and it's going to be easier for the data transfer, and the users will not have any performance issues. Also, a server can manage only one vault. So, for example, if you want to create a vault that you're going to use for development or for testing new releases, you're not going to be able to do that with Workgroup. With EPDM, you can have multiple vaults, you can have different vaults for different business units, and you can have test environments, and so you can test your data. Workgroup PDM has the client licenses tied to a SolidWorks license. Okay, so with EPDM, every license is floating. So the next available user that actually logs into EPDM takes his license. And there are some specific license type, like for example, an editor can work from SolidWorks and check in, check out files directly from SolidWorks. A contributor can check in, check out files from Windows Explorer, can actually approve the documents, and a viewer basically is going to be able to view and print the files. But like I said, again, everybody has floating licenses, and they can use them. Workgroup PDM is integrated in SolidWorks, and EPDM is integrated in Windows Explorer. Again, as I mentioned before, the users using the Windows Explorer-based program, the learning curve is going to be much faster and easy to understand. So we talked a little bit about the security in Workgroup and EPDM. And this is basically a basic login into the administration tool, and you can put your password, your username, and you don't have any other options. With Enterprise PDM, you have an option to use EPDM login, or you can use Windows login, Active Directory, or LDAP. Additionally, you have different passwords for an administration user, and also you have a different password to log in into the SQL database. So now let's do a quick case study, and let's see what it will be required if we need to check in 15 non-CAD documents into a vault. So if I'm going to go to Workgroup PDM, and I have files in folder A and in folder B. So if I want to check all these files in, let's try to select all these files and actually drag and drop them into a sample project. And you can see, because actually I can check in only one single document at one time. Okay, so I'm not going to check them in all of them for the interest of time, but if I have 15 documents and I have to check them in, basically it will take about 51 actions. So we have to create 2 subprojects. We have to put the names and descriptions for those 2 subprojects. We have to do 15 drags and drops, and we have to also do 30 clicks. So 2 clicks per document, so it's about 51 actions. So now let's see what is required to do when we use EPDM. So I'm going to go into my locations. So I have these two folders, and I want to put them into the vault. So what I will do, I will drag and drop the folders. Looks like it's copying the files on the vault. Right-click, check-in, and I have a window that is showing me the check-in process. Also, if you notice, EPDM Enterprise automatically notices if there is any attachment attached to that particular document. Also, it tells me the status, so I can just check in the documents. So basically, if I go back to the presentation, in SolidWorks Enterprise, I have to do only 5 actions. So basically, I select the 2 folders, drag and drop, right-click, and check in. So if I go back to Windows Explorer, and you can see because it's basically I have a regular Windows Explorer interface. You can see because I have a few tabs here, and if I go into a folder, I can actually select the file, and I see a data card. So data cards are fully customizable, and you can add information directly into the file. Also, you can actually search for all this information. So everything that you see here on the data card is searchable. If I want to, I can preview the file. And without opening the file, I can actually scroll through the document and see what's going on. Okay, I can preview pictures. I can preview PDFs. And I can scroll through them. So it has a lot of capabilities. So let's talk a little bit about managing custom properties and in the vault. Actually, let's see what is going to happen if we're going to have to check in SolidWorks documents. So if I want to check in documents from Windows Explorer, I'm going to click on this document, and I'm going to say check in active document. I'm going to have a warning that I am not able to check in a SolidWorks document if I'm not into the environment. So I have to open SolidWorks, and I have to check the file that way. On the other side, if I go to Windows Explorer, and I'm going to go to my working folder, CAD files, and I can actually select all these files, and I'm going to copy them. I'm going to go to my location in the vault. Let's put them in the engineering, and right-click, paste, right-click, check in. So basically, EPDM is going to tell me what I'm going to check in. Also, it's going to tell me that I have a file that is actually not found. And if you want to, you can actually restrict users to check in files that are either not found, references that are not found, or files that are not located in the vault. So for example, if I have this file somewhere on the desktop and the reference is looking on the desktop, I can actually stop that check-in process, and I'm not allowing the users to check the file in. Also, you can see because I have a cut list. I have a well month, and it's showing me the cut list items for that particular well month. So if I'm going to check in the files, I can actually see the files here. I can preview the files. I can look at the data card if there is any information about the file. At this point, I don't have any information. I have a number. So again, it's very simple to use. So let's take a look now at how do we manage custom properties and how do we customize the interface in Workgroup PDM. So before, we have 4 actions to check in the SolidWorks documents. So basically, you have to open the drawing in SolidWorks, check in active documents, 2 clicks, and it's about the same thing for Workgroup for Enterprise PDM. You have to open select the files, copy them, right-click on the files, and check them into the vault. So if you're looking at managing the properties, okay, if I look and in Workgroup, and if I want to select a property, so I'm going to go to some files that I have in checked into the vault, and I'm going to go to this speaker assembly. You can actually see that here I have some properties, the information, I have properties here. And if I want to edit the information, okay, I have to double click, you have to own the document. I want to take ownership of this file. So you have to double click on the description and you have to type in the description, okay. For the same thing for the drawn by, you have to type in a value. If you want to change the interface, you don't have too many options. If you go to the display labels and let's select, if I want to choose multiple custom properties, I don't have that option in Workgroup PDM. So I can either choose material, approved by, a cost, and that's going to show into Workgroup. Okay. Now, if I go back to my Windows Explorer tab, I can actually select a component and you can actually see that I have multiple options here. And if I want to, I can actually add material, I can actually add cost. I can have multiple information, multiple metadata showing into the files. So if I want to, for example, if I want to create a folder, or if I want to create a folder that's a project folder and it's all the time has specific subfolders, okay? So I can actually streamline the information and streamline the process and actually have the same folders name the same over and over again. If I go to new, I can actually select project, and I will select a combo box, 24 PC, and customer name, let's say ABC. If I'm going to click OK, if I go into the projects folder, I can actually see that Enterprise PDM automatically, based on a template, created this project and also created some folders and also put a file into that particular folder. So again, it's streamlining the information and it's much easier to basically keep the same over and over again. So now let's actually try to create a new part. So I'm going to select the part. And based on a serial number, you can actually see that the EPDM actually grabbed the next available number in the system, it put it into the number, and from here I can actually select, with drop-downs, I can actually select colors, different colors, okay, or I can select a different vendor. And all this is based on a predefined template, on a predefined list. So I can select the vendor. If I want to, I can create the file. I can open the file. Also, it tells me automatically who created the file. So I'm actually logged into the system as a system administrator, and automatically it grabbed that information and put it on the data card. So I'm just going to create the file, and it's there. The same thing if I say new SolidWorks assembly, you can actually see that it's using a different serial number, and it's a different number. And again, you can actually customize the information, and you can put the information description or vendor, and you can just create a file. If we want to search for some information in Enterprise PDM, you can just open a basic search, and I'm going to search in the entire project, in the entire vault, and I'm going to search for something called handle. And you can see how fast it returns some results. And you can see, because they are different into different projects, you can see a category, and also you can see what is the state of these files. If I want to, I can actually search for a material, or I can search for a number, or I can search for a different description. And you can see how fast the return of the searching was. So let's talk a little bit about workflows in Workgroup. So if I go to the administration tool for Workgroup, and I'm going to take I'm going to log in into the Vault. So if I'm looking at the life cycle, it's pretty linear, and it's not easy to basically jump from one file to another, from one branch to another. And if I go to SolidWorks Explorer and I will want to change the life status of this particular file, I have to decide and I have to know, where is this component going? Is it going back in design? Is it going obsolete? So the user is always questioning himself, where is it going to? Also, if you want to change the life status on the drawing, you're not going to be able to change all the children. Or when if a document throws you an error, it's not really descriptive. You have to cancel the operation and manually determine which document has the issue. So imagine if you have an assembly with over 100 distinct components, you're going to have to go through all of them and make sure that everything is okay. So when you're checking out a document or take ownership of a document in Workgroup, if you want to, let's go to underwater vehicle. So if I take ownership, if I want to take ownership of this document, I can select the item, and I can select also children, but I don't have options. I have either only the first children or all the children. So it's kind of like an all or nothing type of situation. So for that reason, typically when users are working with Workgroup, they are actually checking all the children, even if they are not planning to modify the documents, because they are not exactly sure and they don't have a reference if the document was modified. So by doing that, you're actually blocking the components for other people, and you're blocking collaborations between users. So if we go to Enterprise PDM, I'm going to show you the administration tool. And you can see, because I can actually have a different server that I can log into. And this is on my local machine. So if I actually log into the Vault with my secret password, I can actually take a look at the workflows. And everything is linear, and you can actually, it's alphabetical order, and you can look through items and find information very, very easily. So you can see, because actually in this particular Vault, I have 5 different workflows. Okay, so if I look at the default workflow, the documents are starting under editing, and they are following a specific path. But at any time, I can actually go back to a different state. I can skip approvals, like for example, if there is a quick change or the document doesn't need approvals from my managers, or if the document is in approved state, I can actually request a change and go through the whole process again and actually approve the document. And at any time, you can actually change this information, and you can actually make changes. With Workgroup, you have to be very particular, and you have to make sure that you have a lot of things defined before you actually implement Workgroup. And making changes in midstream is really, really hard, and it can actually have you can actually have some issues down the line. With PDM, you can actually make changes on the fly. You can add users, you can remove users, you can add workflows, you can remove transitions. So it's really easy and easy to manage. So if I'm going to go to a drawing in PDM, and I'm going to search for a part number. So if I search for this particular part number, I can actually see, because I have a drawing. So from here, I can actually check the file in. And from the interface, I can actually say change state. So if I want to submit this drawing for approval, you can actually see that the drawing by default, if you want to, is going to grab all the references. So you're going to skip the same revision. Or if you want to, you can select different drawings or different components that they're going to go through the approval process. So for example, if a subassembly is not necessarily completed, you can actually leave that behind. Or if you have toolbox components, or for whatever reason you don't want to send other components to the process, you can actually remove them. If you want to, you can add actually a comment. So for example, when that particular person receives the notification, it's going to say, please approve the drawing, or whatever the case will be. So if a user actually receives a notification, they can actually select the notification, and actually you have links, and you can open the file, you can browse the file. In addition to everything else, also you have the capability of creating PDFs. So for example, if I go to this particular location, I'm going to browse into new window, and I just go to the location where the drawing is, I want to create a PDF for this particular drawing. So I can right-click, and I can say Task, Convert Files to PDF. And what's going to happen, SolidWorks is actually firing up in the background, and is going to create a PDF, and it's going to check the file into the vault. Also, what you can do, you can have an option that at any time during the workflow process, you can actually check in the, have a PDF generated automatically. So I can see on my other screen that SolidWorks actually is starting in the background, and it's creating a PDF for this file. And I will refresh the information when the file is completed. And if I go down, you can actually see that the file currently is local. The vault actually, right now, it was just published. So in no time, I can actually create a PDF of the document. Okay, and again, this can be the user can trigger this process, or actually you can trigger the process during a workflow state. So basically, when it's going from pending approval state to release state. So let's talk a little bit about bill of materials in Workgroup. So if you want to retrieve bill of material information, it's really complicated. You can have to run reports. In EPDM, if you go to the bill of materials tab, you can actually see, because I have multiple bill of materials, and I have a bill of material with miscellaneous items. Okay, so if I have grease or packaging material, I can actually add it into this bill of material, and I can actually also very quickly export it to a Excel file, and I can actually see the information in the bill of material, and I can actually send it to somebody or send it to an ERP system. So what if you are actually using Workgroup and you decide that you want to move to Workgroup to EPDM? So what will be the process? So the image on the screen shows a typical migration process. Basically, we will do a backup of the workgroup, and that's a necessary requirement. Like everything else, you should do a backup. Then we're going to check to define the path in the current workgroup configurations. So basically, if there are any changes into your revision scheme, what type of files do you have? How many files do you have, and such. We're going to export the workgroup vault, and we can actually map from the workgroup. We can map the metadata and the information to SolidWorks, to Enterprise PDM, and you can also bring all your history, or you can export specific projects from the vault. You can define the workflow. And then you import workgroup documents in Enterprise, and then you do a validation process to make sure that everything is in place. But also, you don't have to recreate groups, or you don't have to recreate users. The tool, it will do that automatically. And you can also map variables with SolidWorks and AutoCAD. Okay, so Typically, if you want to implement EPDM, this process usually is about 5 days. And in these 5 days, the benefit of doing it this way is actually that you are actually configuring your vault. You're configuring your environment. You're going to be onto your servers, and you're going to work with your data. And at the end, you're going to have a better understanding and a better handle of the entire system. Okay, so looks like we have couple more minutes. And if you want to, you can ask any questions at this point. Let's see if there is any questions.
Okay, guys, so far we haven't seen any written questions. Everybody's pretty quiet, so if you do have any questions and you'd like to present them more directly, feel free to email us, either Christian or I, either one, or give us a call. The phone number here is 610-355-0551. And my extension is 213. Christian's is 234. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We appreciate it. Again, let us know if you have any questions or if we can help in any way. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, guys. And I hope you found this webinar very good. Thank you. Have a good day.